Good morning, everyone. So, I'm Christine Grace Cognito, and today I will be going to discuss the study of decentralization in the Philippines, local government financing, and resource management in the short term. This is authored by the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank. But before that, let's have a review first because these terms will be beneficial in our report. What is local autonomy? So in the PowerPoint presentation, local autonomy refers to self-governing. It is also granting more powers, authority, responsibilities, and resources by the national government down to the local government units in order for them to be self-reliant and active partners. Example niyan is provinces. So, na sila portion ng lugar. And marag kini nga lugar is ning huwalay bitaw sa province. And now, it became a city. And kato nga lugar, nahiwan na siya nga city. And it would only mean that they would have governance. They would be now self-governing. Like, layo na siya sa local government sa ato nga probinsya. And now this city could now administer itself. They have the capacity to manage its people. They have policy. They're responsible enough to manage their finance and resources and tax. So now they could be granted the local autonomy. For example, Antipolo, Rizal. Long before, Antipolo is part of Rizal province. But this time, nagiging Antipolo City na siya. Meron na siyang munisipyo, meron na silang own leader nila. They're self-governing and they have their own local autonomy. Antipolo was once part of the Rizal province, but now, nagiging Antipolo City na siya. Next is, what is decentralization? It is more focused on the transfer of power, authority from the central institution to lower or local levels of government system. It is the ano ba yun? Yung process in which planning and decision making are distributed or delegated down to the lower levels of the government. So, yung mga decision making responsibilities, yung mga daily operations are delegated to the middle and lower subordinates. So, yan yung decentralization at yung local autonomy. Decentralization in the Philippines, strengthening local government financing and resource management in the short term, published on March 31, 2005, is a joint report authored by the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank that assesses the overall local government performance in the Philippines. This study somehow reviews the certain challenges in terms of local financing, delivery of basic services, infrastructure, allocation of resources, management of expenditures, and many, many more. Nevertheless, the central purpose of this document does not only show that decentralization is an end of itself, but what are the means that policymakers can carry out to achieve greater results, such as delivery of basic services to the people. This study also reviews certain facets in decentralization, including the sources of financing under decentralization, the cross-cutting mechanisms to improve resource responsibility. It does not evaluate whether decentralization in the Philippines is justifiable. Ang ilang giingon is, it deals with the arrangement that are naanagid siya sa local government units, and it clearly focuses on activities, what are the solutions, what are the recommendations that are feasible within 6 to 9 months. The scope of this study includes policymakers, national government agencies, local authorities, civil society, and donor partners. And the ADB and the World Bank made this report to endorse good governance in the local government units here in the Philippines. And these institutions also wanted to share its aspirations of achieving a Philippines that is free from poverty, sustainable, and economically competent. Supporting local government financing and resource management is an integral part of this effort. So, yeah, we really need to be thankful for the Asian Development Bank and for the World Bank for initiating this report. So, second, let's review first what are the aims of the local government code. So first is the aim of the local government code is to transform LGUs into self-reliant communities and active partners in nations, building by giving them more powers, authority, responsibilities, and resources. And number 2, hopes to achieve economic development at the regional and local levels by giving them more freedom in carrying out their programs that are suitable for their areas. The impact of the local government code. First is the advanced local autonomy. Why is local autonomy important, by the way? Well, there are certain advantages of having a local autonomy because local autonomy provides local public administration, and we have sufficient freedom of action in managing local public affairs, and at the same time releasing the central authorities of the problems closely related to local communities. So they are leaving the task of solving them to our local authorities. Now, second is the expanded local government taxing authority. So meaning local government units may exercise the power to levy taxes, fees, or charges on any base or subjects. Third, it permits LGU to regroup into larger cooperative units when they deem that it's appropriate. To date, there are many cases of inter-LGU cooperation in coastal resource management, solid waste management, water supply development and distribution, and construction of inter-municipal roads. So this development, however, has contributed to the emergence of metropolitan arrangement in many places around our country. So that is another good impact of the LGC. On the other hand, not very negative impact in LGC. And that brings me to number 4, because available revenue sources are significantly restricted, producing excessive dependence on our internal revenue allotment, or the IRA era, to meet local budgetary needs. Provinces and municipalities right now are most dependent on our era. Dependence of local government units on era, among other things, lessens LGU officials' accountability for revenue and expenditure decisions. Hard decisions on raising revenues to cover our local expenditures and justifying to the public the need to raise the taxes to finance public services can be avoided. This dependence may, also impair the development of local government capital markets, because loans to LGUs have been made essentially on the security, on their dependence, or offered by our era intercept. Local government delivery performance. So first, let's review the regional performance in our LGUs right now. So there are available data that suggests that while there have been modest and higher gains in our welfare, the regional patterns of our development have not been really influenced by decentralization, and there are still regional inequities that exist, that continues to persist. The Philippine Human Development Report, or the HDR 2000, lists the top and lowest ranking 10 provinces by HDI score. Of particular interest and the most impressive in the 2000 HDR is the performance of the province of Bulacan, because Bulacan has very good reform programs in their administration, and there's no doubt that they top the HDR list. However, there are still regions which are consistent in poverty ratings. ARMM in Mindanao, for example. The province of Sulu ranked last in all 3 years. So, it indicates that decentralization has not really influenced some parts of our country, and because of that, poverty is prevailing and regional inequities continue to exist and persist. So, number 2, regional economic growth seems to have a positive impact on average family incomes and poverty, but does not appear correlated to employment. I think this is one of the main problems, is that kanang bitong mga job fairs, dili kay nimo makit-an gyud na siya sa mga municipalities. Wala mga job fair. Ang mga job fair lang kasi dyan ay sa mga cities, pero walang nangyayari doon sa mga municipalities. So yes, kailangan talaga nating tugunan ng ganito mga problema. We really have to create more job opportunities, especially in Mindanao, especially in our municipalities here in Mindanao. Dili lang kay focus na tatanan sa cities like sa northern states of the Metro Mega Manila. So, yes, job opportunities. I would like you to show you this map. So, kanang orange ones, those are provinces that has achieved a highest HDI score. HDI means HDI HDI means Human Development Index. So it is, like a tool used by the country to measure the overall achievement in its social and economic dimension. So kanang orange din ha, kanang nasa Philippine map, those were provinces that has achieved highest HDI score. And the gray ones there, or the white ones, are the lowest. So during the 2019 HDI, the top 5 provinces that achieved the highest performance is the Benguet. Wow, congrats Benguet. So ngano kaha si Benguet ang nag-top? So, ngano si Benguet? Of course, it's all in the name of good governance. Yes. If you ask the governor of Benguet, he said that local governance should be focused more on the people. Mga tao kasi ang mogrado sa satisfaction ratings. So, sa ilang provinces, and so kung I survey nga mag-assess sa LGU performance, these local people would give you a thumbs up because dindot man ang inyong mga services, dindot ang inyong mga programs. And of course, look for local resources of income. Do not fully rely on our era because when you have this high dependence on our era, you're missing out opportunities. Dependent pagid ka sa era, poor pagid inyong tax collection, under-collected pagid isahin yung mga fees and charges and real property taxes. And so what will happen? So, ma-compromise. So, in the 2019 HDI, ang pinaka-lowest is Sulu, Maguindanao, Lanao del Sur, and most likely sa Barm region. So in this case, we really have to review our resource allocation. We have to review our budget allocation. Pero nagyapoy mga factors like leadership, governance. So those are big factors that we need to consider. Nganong low ang atong HDI scores in these specific regions. Here are some pictures. So, pictures presented above are environmental degradation. And yes, speaking of environmental degradation, and especially nga prevalent na gid karon ng mga plastic pollution, what if mga LGUs mag-open sila this kind of program nga barter shop? Like, 1 kilo of plastic would be an exchange with sardinas, or 1 kilo of plastic would be bartered by rice, or 1 kilo of plastic would be bartered by clothes, and clothes, rice, toys. Di ba pwede? Like, mag-barter bitaw sila. And in that sense, people would be motivated to collect plastics, and people would be motivated to segregate their waste. Kaya na may nindot kayo nga program ang LG, which is the barter shop program. So another is literacy rate are declining because children are addicted to online games. Well, no, low access to books, that is. I remember one time when I was in grade school, we are using mathematics books nga. So sa mathematics books, tulo ka book students mag-share, and I must say nga ang LGU of national government should be active partners in providing quality education for our children and students. So, continuation on cities' performance. Although they had annual development plans and annual investment plans, the mere presence of these documents did not really reflect their quality, particularly their utility as management tools. And most cities did not have planning policies, guidelines, and a reliable data bank. It appears that cities had no rational basis for formulating development programs and projects. The findings also point to a weak system of local fiscal administration in our cities. Most cities has a local revenue code, but they have no annual revenue plans. So some cities reported delays in paying their loan amortizations, and many failed to comply with their budgetary requirements imposed by the local government code. So another special mention is corruption. Well, that's prevalent in it's self-explanatory. Lack of that management capacity, kay poor ang financial management, well, somehow it would negatively impact your credibility or your credit score. So, poor debt management, that will compromise, or you will not meet the requisite credit worthiness criteria. So, we also need to consider, like, how could we strengthen debt management in most of our LGUs? low professional qualification of staff. So in this case, possibly there would be a disorganization. This makes them unreliable and undependable. Next is the weak administrative capacity in all major tax administration. Real property taxes are undercollected, fees and charges are not really fully managed, they're not collected. So, we really have to work it out, and really have to strengthen our LGUs and remind them of these gaps and disparities in their communities, under their jurisdiction. What are some political economy factors that are affecting LGU performance? So here I've listed 3. First, there are some dominant social groups. There are complex and enduring web of connections between our political executives, civil servants, and business interests. Say, for example, see congressmen who have a great influence with a bureaucracy and his government system. Another is that political dynasty. There are some representatives have siblings who are public officials. Name ato sa LGU representatives had close blood relatives or politicians. So, they are dominating our local government system. Number 2, factors would be linked to corruption. These number 2 factors would be linked to corruption. Operations remain underdeveloped and exhibit vulnerabilities in transparency, accountability, efficiency, and effectiveness. So corruption is really an issue because, for example, in tax policy and administration, there are corruption, procurements, personnel hiring, or the prevalence of our patronage and family control is also well known. So, excessively politicized system, they excessively politicize our system of rewards, the resource allocation. And so, those are a few mentions that I'd like to highlight within the report of ADB and the World Bank. So, next, here are many of the actions that can be taken by our LGUs themselves without national government intervention. Makaya na nila ni recommendations according to ADB and World Bank. First is to support for expanding and deepening the capacity building role of national government oversight agencies is another crucial role to the quality of LGU performance. One of that is to monitor the LGU's financial performance. How are they dealing with their debts? Okay ba ilang basic delivery services? Things like that. So the national government should encourage LGUs to increase their own source revenues or their OSRs. LGUs need to efficiently manage their expenditures and strengthen their linkages between planning, budgeting, and investment programming. And of course, it is now time to establish a clear and acceptable set of LGU performance assessment indicators, if necessary by providing incentives to LGUs to scale up their good practice and governance. So that is the end of my report. I hope that you've get something from it, and I hope that you've learned something from it. And let's see what are your questions in this Thursday's reporting. So bye guys, thank you all for listening. Stay safe and God bless.